Keep it up, Yankee Doodle Dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls he handy.
My name is George Washington. You might know me as the first president of the United States and being the commander of the Continental Army. I had a lot of jobs. I was a surveyor, a commander, president, farmer, and a husband. During the war, my army was low on gunpowder, so we boarded the British ships and we took their gunpowder. At the end, we ended up with 2.5 million pounds of gunpowder. Some interesting facts that you might not know about me is that I loved animals. After the war, I got a donkey as a present. And if you thought you'd gone to big parties, well, I had a party of 2,000 guests at my home, Mount Vernon. I was born in 1732 in Virginia. My father's name was Augustine Washington. My brother's name was Lawrence. I went to school in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
That's it.
Bye.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Griscom, but you may know me as Betsy Ross. I was born on January 1st in 1752 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My parents' names were Samuel and Rebecca Griscom. I was one out of 16 children. I attended Quaker meetings on Thursdays and Sundays. I was so lucky to have an 8-hour education at a Quaker public school. I was given 4 hours at the school, and I used it to practice my sewing and quilting. After the yellow fever epidemic, only 9 of my family survived, including me. My great-grandfather came to America in 1681. My father, Samuel Griscom, was a carpenter. In 1751, just before I was born, my father helped build the first belfry on the Pennsylvania State House. After graduating from school, I got a job as a local upholsterer. I worked for Benjamin Franklin at the State House of Pennsylvania. I got my own business called John Ross Upholster after I married. I sewed the first American flag in 1776. Although I had to perfect General Washington's original design for the flag, which was square and had 6 pointed stars. I could cut a 5-pointed star with only 1 cut. My daughters Clarissa, Susanna, Rachel, Jane, and Harriet died as babies. I died January 30th, 1836 at age 84 of natural causes in my sleep. After my death, my grandson William J. Canby made my story public in an address to the Historical Society on Pennsylvania in 1870. I was buried on Arch Street in the garden of the house I once ran as a upholstery shop.
Hello everybody, I'm Martha Washington, George Washington's wife. I had brown hair and I was 5 foot or 5 foot 3.5 inches. People say I was beautiful and polite. I was born June 2nd, 1731 to John and Frances Dandridge. We lived on a plantation in Virginia. We had good-sized rooms on both floors, a big fireplace, and a convenient kitchen in the basement. I had 8 brothers and sisters. I played with dolls, learned the alphabet, and watched the tobacco grow when I was a young child. I had a good education in reading, writing, and math. I never mastered spelling or grammar. In the 1730s, we visited Williamsburg. We had some family. My mom taught me to cook, sew, and do fancy embroidery. I met Daniel Custis when I was 17ish, when I had just entered the Virginia Society. In 1774, we got married. We had 4 kids, but 2 of them had died. Jackie and Patsy survived them. I got married to George January 6, 1759. After Daniel had died,
in 1757 of an illness. Jackie married Nellie February 3rd, 1774, and the war began April 19th, 1775. Jackie and Nellie had 3 kids between 1776 and 1779. I visited George 3 times, the winter of 77, 75, and 78. When I visited in 77, George had a sore throat and a fever. Jackie and Nellie had 3 more kids in 1781. And then Jackie Custis joined the Army early November 1781, and he died November 5th, 1781. The war ended November 25th, 1783, and George returned on Christmas Eve. In 1789, in New York, George got elected president. My family and I moved to New York in 1789. We held receptions and dinners, and Family Day was on Sunday. We moved to a bigger house on Broadway, New York in 1789. We moved again to Pennsylvania, the new capital, in November. And then George got re-elected president, and he wanted to help the French in the French and Indian War. George died in 1799 on December 14th. He made a will that all our slaves would be free. Martha burned all the letters from him, and she sent him except for 2. And I died May 22nd, 1802.
Hi, my name is Phyllis Feely. I was born in 1753 in the continent which is now Senegal, Africa. My father in Africa was a weaver, and my mother was a person who recited poems and sang songs on special occasions. I had 3 siblings named Penda, Asta, and Chirno, and Phyllis. In Africa, my real name was Sasha Kamboa. I was the middle child of all 4 of us, and I was brought over by slave traders in 1761. When I was brought over, I had no clothes but a small rug draped around me. My name came from the ship I was on called the Phyllis. I began to speak fluent English within a couple of months of 1761. I never went to school nor college, but was taught by my mistress's daughter and son, Mary and Nathaniel. They taught me to read and write. I started writing poetry when I was 13 years old, and 18 men that year asked me to take a test to see if I actually wrote my poems. I overachieved the test, and I actually did write my poems. That's the proof. My first poem was published when I was 14 years old in a newspaper in Boston, Massachusetts. I also studied Latin, French, and English. I realized I was the first important Black African poet. In 1773, my book of poems was published. And then Phyllis sent a poem called To His Excellency General George Washington in 1776. We actually met over lunch. They actually made a statue of me in Boston, Massachusetts. As for struggles, I often needed medical attention.
I think you're done.
So my mistress died in 1774 and she died of a sickness. The year before that, I moved out because I was afraid I might catch a sickness. As I got older, I realized that Black people can be smart and all have rights. All of the people of these new 13 colonies should all have equal rights. In 1778, I married a lovely man named John Peters, who was also a freedman like me. He did not do well in business. The Subs records say he went to jail. We have 3 lovely kids named Eliza, Mary, and George. They all died before I did. I died in poverty in 1784 and was 31 when I died.
Well, Mr. Jefferson, how do you think we did tonight?
I think we did great, Mr. Washington.